others celebrate the wins,
Yes.
we celebrate the mud.
each episode has a special guest.
Tony-nominated actress, Broadway's Lily Cooper.
Tashir Zameda.
David A. Gregory.
Getting messy with muddy topics.
We are going to be talking about grief journey.
With hilarious moments
Now get over here.
And deep conversations.
I'm ashamed to even admit this, but this is what happened.
This is Into the Mud.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Into the Mud podcast. While others celebrate the wins,
We celebrate the mud. I'm Alex Cuban.
I'm Drew King.
You wanted to switch it up today, and I don't think I could. I don't think I could handle that pressure.
One day we're gonna switch it
One
up.
day maybe we will.
It's gonna happen.
We always do the same
Yes.
intro like that.
Oh, really?
And I think I would mess it up. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Into the Mud podcast. While others celebrate the wins.
We celebrate the mud. I'm Drew
Yeah.
King.
See, it really rolled off the tongue. And I'm Alex Cuman, and we are joined by the wonderful Liz Glazer.
Oh, thanks. Hi. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
So excited for our topic today.
Me too. Yeah.
You and I know each other through comedy.
We do.
You've done a lot of different. You got some great little credits.
Oh,
Tonight
I mean,
Show.
the same. My
Nate
God.
Bargatze.
Yes, sure.
And are we allowed to talk about the things been publicized, right? You're
Oh,
on the
yeah,
Netflix.
Yes.
Yes.
Totally.
This
Yes.
like Kevin Hart presents
Uh-huh.
Netflix competition
Yes.
thing. So
Yes.
Is it a competition series?
Mm-hmm.
Like a Top Chef of comedy?
Yeah, I think actually
Yes.
the
I
didn't
people
realize
who are doing it, whatever, like the production side, I think they did/do Top Chef. If I'm
I
not
gotta
wrong.
watch this.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Has it filmed yet?
Caitlin's on it too.
Some of it.
Some of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure there's NDAs, so you can probably
Right.
talk about a lot.
Right.
Of like, oh my,
Yeah.
oh my God. Okay.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
We're
It
gonna
is.
have a martini and watch.
We'll have
Yeah.
a martini
I
and
can't
watch.
Totally.
wait. Oh
Uh-huh.
my
Have a
God.
martini and watch.
Yeah. I'm
That's
excited
so
to.
fun.
I'm
Okay, great.
very excited to see it. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Thank
But
you.
the other amazing thing about you is that you had a whole life before comedy.
I
So
sure
you
did.
have a master's
Yes.
in philosophy
Yes.
from UPenn.
Yeah.
You also went to U Chicago Law School.
I did.
You were
Yeah.
a tenured lawyer.
Yep.
Like what?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, like.
Tenured law professor. Sorry, I said
No,
tenured
no,
lawyer.
no. It's fine. And the joke of it that I've done, it was a joke that existed for me for a while, but I was happy I got to do it on the Tonight Show because it was sort of like the joke is basically like, oh yeah, I wasn't always a comedian. I used to be a law professor, which, that's like normal, like how people do it, classic route. If you want to be a comedian, you go to law school for 3 years, you practice for 2, you teach for 9, you get tenure, and then you do the Tonight Show. And so that was like a fun way of just like, like normal to have it for that moment. And it's like a nice way of like summarizing all of it, because all of that is true. I love when there's like a punchline that can also just be literal truth.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you get extra points in a competition that nobody is judging except for me, and I don't even keep track of the points. But like where you don't have to make a single thing up, and it's just like, yeah, whatever. But anyway, I had no idea, not that like comedy existed. Like I knew Joan Rivers existed from the Muppets, of course.
Duh.
Classic. Yep.
Piggy's friend
Uh-huh.
from Bloomingdale's. But like, other than that, I mean, I have the story of like, I thought TV came from space. I had no idea that was like a normal avenue for anybody to do a thing. Like you have immigrant parents too, right?
Not immigrant.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, yeah.
For some reason I thought that. Sorry.
Where are your parents from?
So my dad was from Riga, from Latvia, and my mom appears like a not immigrant. She is technically an immigrant, but like if you met her, you'd be like, she's a girl from Great Neck. But she technically was born in a displaced persons camp in Rome. But then sometimes she's like, so I'm Italian. I'm like, you're fully insane is what you are. Like, I don't know what you're trying to return to Bloomingdale's with your mafia membership.
I love it. Yeah, right.
So
Hilarious.
anyway, so they are like, they're descended from Holocaust survivors on both sides. Wow. And so anyway, so like a lot of my upbringing was this like, nobody can take your education away from you. And I'm like, does anyone want it? Like just that kind of stuff. And a lot of like, listen, you better, buckle up because you have to survive.
Yeah.
And so I really had no concept of like, I could do something that I want.
Mm-hmm.
Like my desire is at all relevant to any of this, like not at all. And it wasn't until after I had gotten tenure, which I think is relevant because like I sort of, I don't know, did the thing that I was allegedly on the route to doing. It was hard. I guess I made it, whatever. And then I was visiting. It all goes back to Chicago, which is where you're from.
Yeah,
Is that where you
started comedy in Chicago. Yeah,
got
from
it, got
Boston.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So, not sorry you're from Boston.
Yeah,
Sorry
yeah.
for being wrong.
You better not be sorry.
Also Boston.
Are you Boston?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Okay. So, but for me, I'm also not from Chicago, but everything for me started in Chicago because I went to law school there and also I started comedy there. So I was visiting post getting tenure at Hofstra on Long Island. I go to Northwestern for the semester as a visiting professor. And basically, because it was like such a jump in rankings, like no offense to Hofstra, but like you go to a school like that and it's honestly like the analog is very much like comedy club. So it's like if you're at a club and you're like, okay, I'm sort of new here, everybody's like cooler than me, whatever, everybody knows what you want. And so the trick is to like kind of know that and be good, but not be thirsty and not appear desperate. And so anyway, so I go to Northwestern for the semester and my friend who was like, you know, my age on the faculty, like a baby law professor type, she's like, hey, everybody here gets that like you want the job. Don't be weird. Like don't come to meetings that you don't have to come to. Don't like go to extra lunches, like just find a hobby and be cool. And it was like the best advice, not only because then eventually what I would do is I would take an improv class at IO and meet a teacher there who was like, you should do stand up. And then I did it and I loved it and like whatever. And that changed my life forever in a million ways. That is, you know, how I'm sitting here and knowing you. But also it, by the end of the semester, was like Northwestern was like, by the way, we never considered you seriously enough for a full-time position. If you want to submit your materials, do that. And by that point, I had already started doing comedy, basically had like one foot out the door to the whole career, and I didn't submit my materials. And like really full circle moment, because now I do stand up at law schools, like among other places. And I did stand up last summer for orientation at Northwestern Law School. And the dean at the time, who's not the dean anymore, he's on, you know, back on the faculty. He and I did a Q&A after the set about that moment. Wow. And it was like, because the thing is like, it's not threatening. I love doing stand-up for lawyers and law professors. I mean, it pays well, which, you know, I don't mean to ever be, I hate when people like don't say that part. It's like, that's part of,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
That's why we take the corporate,
But I do love those shows because that's the original audience that I found how to be funny in front of because, you know, that was who I was doing it for.
Wow.
I was doing a presentation at a sex ed conference in February.
I saw
and It's
that.
my second year in a row, like doing something, but I was doing stand up there as well in front of a bunch of sex educators. And
Amazing.
I'm like, this is, I don't have to explain anything. I can do a half an hour of all the stuff that like I know you're going to get.
I can talk about an IUD.
I can
what?
talk about an IUD. It's where you're familiar. You're with your people.
Totally. And it's a gift for both parties because, like, for me, I think that I've met other lawyers, and I truly don't mean any shade about this, but like most people who like used to be lawyers and then become comedians that I've met had something where they're like, ugh, I hated it, or like it was the worst or whatever. For me, I liken it to coming out as gay, which happened for me at the time that I was like with my college boyfriend. Wow. Unfortunately for him, I always feel bad about that part. Not that like we're friends. I mean, he's married. It doesn't matter. But like, it's not like I hated him or we had a bad relationship. I just kissed Marissa and then was like, oh, I didn't realize that it was like that, unfortunately. And so similarly to doing stand-up, like I liked my job. I really was like having a good time. And then I did that. And even doing it just for the first time, I was like, oh my God. Like I told my therapist, who is the same therapist as now, I said to her after the first time I ever did stand-up, I was like, oh, I feel like I had a professional orgasm, which is basically a regular orgasm, but I was 100% sure that it happened. And so I basically from that feeling was like, I don't know what that was, but I know I have to keep doing it.
That feeling. Okay, two thoughts. At that same path for me. I was I was working in sex education, looking into getting a master's degree, and then tried a stand-up class, did Stand-up, and I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. It was just this knowing.
Feeling.
It was a
Right.
knowing.
A knowing.
It was a
Yes.
knowing, right?
Yeah.
And that we want to kind of dig in today about like trusting yourself.
Yeah.
And like, how do you know when to trust yourself, especially with big decisions like this? Because I
Huge.
think trusting yourself can come in like switching careers, leaving a long-term relationship, myriad of other just different
Totally.
paths, all these different things.
Yes.
Having kids, not having
Right.
kids, like there's so many big questions out there.
Yeah.
And you really have to know how to listen to yourself.
I know.
And that's so much easier said than done.
Totally.
And
yeah.
you are, to loop back the therapy thing, because I think this is so relevant. So you have been that therapist that you were with 19 years ago. You are wrapping up working with them next month.
Correct.
Wild, because I'm also wrapping
19
up
years.
5 years with my therapist next
Amazing.
month. And it's hard and it's a scary thing. But I was today looking back at my first journal that I had with her and all of the notes. And while the themes and the topics kind of still remain, which was surprising to me, I was like, oh, wow, these are the things I literally brought up last week.
Wow.
The way that I deal with them is so much better. And
Totally.
the way that I handle the downs is so much better.
Sure.
Trusting myself has been such an integral part of that. And so I would love to talk a little bit more about like, what does it mean? Like, okay, when you were making that switch, like it was the knowing, which is like, we love that. Like, like the woo woo, like, oh, I just know and I have to do it. But then there's like the administrative side of that where you have to, the mental side where you go, okay, am I really doing this?
Yeah. Well, so for me, I guess if I had like one short little fragment way of saying how I've done it, it's like paying attention to signs, but also like not, I want a warning label with this because I don't mean like, and then I saw a sign and I just like went with it.
Right.
For me, it's like I'm an obsessive journaler. And that I think is like very helpful for the process because I force myself to pay attention. I think that's really the thing with like journaling and a lot of other, little tips about creativity is like, really it's like getting yourself to pay attention in one way or another. So the morning after my first ever stand-up set, I had this like vision that I was on The Tonight Show, not even doing stand-up. I was on the couch already, and I'm having a conversation with Jimmy Fallon, and he's like, so I don't get it. And this was during my 7th year of teaching, which is relevant. And in this like daydream, Jimmy Fallon is like, I don't get it. You were a professor for a decade, and then you just decided to do stand-up. And I was like, actually, Jimmy, it wasn't a decade. It was 9 years. And in my head, I was like, well, is that funny to like round down from 10 to 9 when it's not in your favor? And why would I say that? And anyway, I like told my mom and I was like, I think that's a joke. And my mother's like, Elizabeth, I'm not sure that's funny. And I was like, yeah, maybe you're right. And I was like, but there's something with this 9-year thing. I don't know what it means. Anyway, my mom's like, don't quit your job for that bit. It's not funny. And I was like, got it. And I wrote like, don't quit for a bit, like on random pieces of paper, like just to kind of remind me. But I sort of just had it in my head because it was like there. Anyway, so that was in year 7. Then it's year 8. I get a phone call from the dean. And this was like at a time when the school that I was at was having this like budget crisis. They were fine. They got a literal $20 million donation like the week after.
Great.
But anyway, in this week, everybody who was tenured, which I newly was getting a phone call like, oh, you're able to, as a tenured professor, like give up your job in exchange for money. And we have to explain contractually all of the different like tranches of available money if you give up your tenured job. And so I'm listening. And there's like all these different complicated things. They don't want to write it down because they don't want the memo to circulate. And then like these like legal tabloids are like the school's in trouble, whatever. Anyway, so I'm like taking it down in my notebook. And it's like you can do a quarter time, an eighth time, a half time, whatever. And then the second to last option was, or somebody could decide to quit at the end of this year, which would have been the 8th year of mine. And then the last option was, or somebody could elect to quit at the end of next year. And I was like, oh, that's 9 years. And I decided on the spot, and by the way, just for context, this was in a funeral processional. Like, just if you're imagining where this happened, it was in a car on I-80.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally a
I was
funeral
like,
processional.
okay,
I
my
have
God.
time. I have time to chat. And I had like gotten a phone call from the dean at school on a day that I was out because of a friend's mother's funeral. Tragedy.
Like, I gotta
but
pick this up.
I was like, I was like nervous not to take the call, but also my friends who were driving, like one in, the driver's seat, one had shotgun. They were like, well, why don't you just take the call? Like, we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, we literally have to drive 30 miles an hour on I-80. Like, we're here. So anyway, I basically we got into the car, on the way from the temple. And by the time we got to the funeral, I had retired because I said back to the dean, I was like, I picked the last option. And he was like, you don't have to pick any of these. I just need to tell you these. And then I told him about my crazy daydream. And he was like, you're insane. But also he knew me for many years.
Yeah.
He's like, but also like, I get it.
Yeah.
Because everybody knew that I was doing stand-up.
Yeah.
And I was just like, listen, like, I'm doing this and I really like it. And, this right now kind of feels like this thing that I've been carrying around with me it had been like a year that I had this weird idea of like, I guess I'm going to be doing this for 9 years. And then that happened. And so I'm always a little cautious whenever I share stories like this because, listen, I love a self-help, scam. Okay, give me a
Sign me up.
pyramid scheme. Exactly.
Love 'em.
Like, I'm watching The Vow. I'm like, but where do I sign up for NXIVM? Like, that's my.
I'm the same. I feel like I would have fallen into a cult very easily.
I do. I have, and I will. I feel like I'm pretty okay about it. Like, I trust myself in a cult because I have gotten myself out of them also without incident, by the way.
God.
Like, where I'm like, and here I'm getting half my money back. Thank you. And here's my argument. So like, I'm not afraid of them in a way because I'm like, but sometimes they can be really great. But anyway, so I say that because like a lot of those girlies or however you want to categorize them will talk about like manifesting and signs and like you have to follow your intuition. I feel like I'm always cautious about that because I'm like, I don't think it makes sense to jump without a net all the time. But in that instance, first of all, I mean, and I don't mean this like, and I was right and here's my proof that I was right, but like, it wasn't like the next day I quit my job. It was a year of carrying this around, sort of being aware of like, what's this 9-year business? And maybe it's nothing, or maybe it's something. And then having this conversation, which by the way, just so people understand, like I had that conversation a year and a half later from the conversation was when I actually left my job. And then for 2 years after that, I got paid as though I had my job. With health insurance.
So that's the thing. That was one of the things, because I feel like you hear so many stories of people being like, and then I quit and I moved to New York with $12 in my pocket.
Correct.
And that means that I really wanted it. And anyone who doesn't do that doesn't want it. And it's like, okay.
Right.
That wasn't how I did. I need health insurance.
Yeah, totally.
I need health insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
Very simply. So like, that's how I like slowly, rolled into stand up part-time as I went part-time at my job. And then I went full-time. It's like, this was this kind of wheel turning for me.
Right.
There's different paths for everyone.
I think so. And there are times that I'm like, well, maybe if I went like full throttle more in the way that some other people do, then I wouldn't have been as afraid for as long on stage or, whatever. And that's possible too. But like, I'm always going to be me. And part of being me is like the process of kind of coming out of a shell and, whatever. Like I did need that buffer time. And I'm very glad that I have it. But I always like to say those parts of the story whenever I'm telling the story, because I feel like there is a lot of like, and you must just go for it.
And you have to do it.
Yeah.
And you have to.
Right.
Moving here was another, I remember feeling like I moved here too late. But then I'm like, okay, but then you got right into the clubs.
Right.
Yeah.
So like,
Totally.
you could have moved here 5-8 years earlier, but how would you have...
Right.
How would you have been? How like your mental state in this city? Like what would that have been like for you?
Totally. Yeah. I think about that too, like whenever I don't get stuff now also, because like and sometimes it's hard to believe, but it's like, I do believe I'm not like a superhero person. Like if you quizzed me on any, I wouldn't know the answers.
Yeah.
That said, the idea of like all of the pushback, all the rejection gives you powers that then once you're like ready, you're more powerful because of those setbacks.
1000%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's growth. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
Is that like, rejection, redirection,
Right.
failure
Yeah,
propels
right.
you forward. It's just like a
Totally.
learning lesson.
I
Yeah.
think so.
But back to what you were saying earlier, it's very Elizabeth Gilbert. You guys Elizabeth Gilbert fans.
Of course.
That's why I
Yeah.
love Big Magic so much, because
Right.
Big Magic
It's a great
isn't.
book.
She's
Yeah.
essentially saying like, don't do what I did. Like,
Right.
don't quit your job, divorce your husband,
Yeah.
and move to Italy, Bali, and
Yeah.
wherever else she goes.
Right.
She's like, no, like keep the job.
Yeah.
Keep the day job.
Yeah.
Because
I remember
that's what
that.
you need. Like people call me crazy, but when I was doing a Broadway show, I was catering in the mornings.
Interesting.
Because I was catering on my days off, because I was like,
Wow.
okay, like, yes, I need to rest, but also
Right.
simultaneously, like, being in a Broadway show, yes, it's work. I'm not
Yes.
belittling that it's work.
Totally.
But for a theater kid who loved Broadway, it was a
Yeah.
vacation. It was a dream.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're living the dream,
Right.
like, don't quit the day job. So for me,
Totally.
it was like, well, I still need to keep my day job because this show could close tomorrow. But, like, I need to uphold my end of the bargain with my catering manager and still make money and put money in away. Like,
Yeah.
I think in order to pursue your craft, it's healthiest to be able to support yourself emotionally and financially and have health insurance while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because it is a fickle business, as we all know. And like, how do you keep food on the table
Yeah.
in the interim between gigs?
Totally.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with all of that.
Yeah.
And I guess like if I were to tell somebody my version of like how to listen to that voice, I mean, I have a healthy attitude, I think, around that intuitive voice, which is like, well, she's right sometimes, but like let her keep talking, right, for a little while, rather than being quite so impulsive about it. Because for such an impulsive decision, I feel like I made it pretty gradually, even though it sounds like,
Well, and
yeah.
decisions like that also come with like a feeling, I think. They come
Totally.
with that.
Right.
The way that I've made some really hard decisions in my life is like, okay, like sit with this feeling, sit with the two paths that you can take.
Yeah.
Which path makes you feel excited and open and like sunny and
Yeah.
like expansive? And which path makes you feel like scared and like
Yeah.
tight and small and like
Totally.
fearful or like
Right.
dark?
Yeah.
And there's usually a pretty clear cut.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can usually just like feel something
Yeah.
Yeah.
about, you know?
Well, that's the thing also that like, even though, self-help is such a thing for me where it's like, I love it so much. And then also I'm like sitting reading whatever the book of the moment is, like rolling my eyes, but
Yeah.
also loving it.
Yep.
And I feel like the Mark Manson stuff with
don't know
like,
Mark Manson.
Is he the one that's
fuck
like,
yes.
fuck, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
You're a badass.
Yeah.
Is that him or whatever?
I
Or
think
no?
that's Jen Sincero.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
That
Jen-
is.
I didn't
sorry.
know that.
Where
I
she's
knew.
like, buy the Mercedes.
Right.
And you're like, what?
What?
Right. And there's so much like what
Like, I'm on
about
Medicaid. I'm gonna manifest.
right.
A Mercedes.
Right. I'm on Medicaid is such a funny line.
Oh my God.
I love that so much. I can't wait to see where that goes, but it
Let's
should
do
be
that.
somewhere.
Yeah, put it somewhere. That's a
it's
great
really
one.
funny. And but like that's the thing that I love so much about some of these self-help people who have really hit on something big
Yeah.
is like the fuck yes idea is so powerful. Like whatever. I mean, and I'm not even saying like I have such an opinion about Mark Manson, but I feel like every time I bring up one of these authors, it's a little
Yeah.
bit eye rolly because I'm like, I'm not like, I guess any author, like any kind of,
sure.
idol worship of any
Yeah.
kind is like a little eye rolly. So
Yeah,
I'm not, but that idea of like, yeah, you know what's like a fuck yes and you know what isn't,
Mhm.
anyway, whatever.
Having to also put yourself in that mindset of like, once you make that decision, like make that decision.
Yeah,
Like you got to like step into it
Yeah.
and believe that you can do it
totally.
because going into it like half-assed
Right.
will but you can crumble with
yes.
it. Like,
agree. And I mean, and I recognize always that like, this is true about everybody, that everybody's circumstances are their own. And like, I had this particular circumstance where I was like on the phone with someone making a decision today about a year and a half from then, which really was 2 years out from then. And during that time, that's basically when I went into Debtors Anonymous. I got sober. I like did all these things because I was like, I feel like I have this buffer time to get better at my art, but also to kind of figure out my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like I didn't specifically put myself on any kind of a deadline, but like it was hard to not know that there was this looming date where I wasn't going to be paid anymore. Like that was sort of obvious. Yeah. And, I at the time was like in some debt, like student loans, but also like, just casual debt.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was like, I think I got to look at this because like this is okay as long as I'm like getting a paycheck and I can be like a little bit like splurgy every now and then, but this is not going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I need to deal with it. And so that's how I like got into program about that. And then the sobriety came a little bit later, and it wasn't like I planned at the outset, like, let me do all these things. It was more that I went into Debtors Anonymous, and then all my friends from Debtors Anonymous were all sober because like they got there through Alcoholics Anonymous.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh, so all these people with like not that there aren't people who are nuts, because there are, but like, I was like, well, they're all sober and they seem to have their lives together in a variety of ways that I find admirable and out of reach at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a correlation there.
Mm-hmm.
And there may or may not be. I tend to think there is, but it's not like I know that I'm right. But anyway, so that was sort of how that happened. And it all sort of happened at the same time as that like in between period. So yes, I definitely was like all in on stand-up, but I also did give myself, just based on how it worked out, this time where I was like, okay, I'm like not perfect at this. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm willing to like get guidance and get better and stuff like that.
Did you find that in terms of like listening to your intuition, kind of knowing how to like guide yourself?
Yeah.
Pre-sobriety versus post-sobriety, did that change a lot?
A lot, because I mean, and that was also like, I did get sober through rooms, I guess, like, AA and Marijuana Anonymous to a degree, but I sort of like dipped my toe into those because I really was more a DA, Debtors Anonymous person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also did SLAA, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, because I had a breakup and all my DA friends were like, it sounds like you're going through withdrawal. And I'm like, it sounds like you are a program robot, but fine. And I went to the Tuesday
It's like Fight
meeting.
Club with Helena Bonham Carter.
No, totally. Because it's like they're all like at the Y in Chinatown all the time.
Yeah.
And they're all friends with each other. So they're like, you should really go to the Tuesday meeting. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sad on Tuesdays because like this girl broke
it's
up
a
with
day.
me. Right. Exactly. Because it's a day.
Yeah.
And so I went, and like, it was like an all women's meeting, which was like a nice vibe.
Yeah.
And I remember the girl who was sharing, and it's like one of the best shares in SLA that I ever heard. There was a lot. I'm not going to ask if anybody's like been to a SLA meeting because of course it's anonymous, but like the extent of the funny stuff in SLAA, like there's that show Love, that explored that. But like, I just remember I would go to this other meeting, not the Tuesday meeting. I would go on Saturday nights. It was like early, and I would go before sets. At the time I was like opening up for this drag show. So I would like go to the meeting, and then I would walk to Broadway Comedy Club and open up for the drag show, whatever. Anyway, and I just remember it was kind of hot because they're all in these like old churchy buildings. And there was always like, I'd like to make a motion to open the window. And then somebody else on the other side of the room, I'd like to make a motion to close the window, open the window, close the window, open the window, close it. And it's like, this is why you're here.
Yeah.
So anyway, and like they would all like, share about having a crush on somebody else in the room. And they were all in their celibate year because their sponsor wasn't letting them have sex, but then they had sex with the sponsor. And like, it's just so funny to me.
That's a TV show.
Fodder.
Yeah, it was like so funny to me. But I feel like anybody who like makes fun of program stuff like also was like, but it totally changed my life and it was so helpful and like whatever. So it was that too. But the girls' meeting, the women's meeting that I went to, I remember this woman was sharing about stalking people on Instagram. And I remember I was like, thank you so much to this woman for sharing about this. I wouldn't be able to recognize her in a crowd. I have no idea who she was. But I was like, I remember that whenever I would like break up with someone or someone broke up with me or I had like any kind of feelings for someone, I would do like rounds before bed of just like stalking each of those people's Instagrams.
God, yeah.
And I thought I was just beholden to that slavery for the rest of my existence. Like nobody is ever going to tell you should stop doing that because like it's just like breathing. And I know that sounds ridiculous to say because like why wouldn't you be able to stop that?
Yeah.
But I feel like so much of my stopping so many bad behaviors is me being like, it's not that bad, which arguably it isn't, but it's like it doesn't have to be that bad for you to want to stop a thing that's not good.
Yeah.
You know?
And there is a gap between knowing what's bad for you and then stopping what's bad for you.
Totally.
You know, like
yes.
There's a gap there in that, and it takes a while to get to the place where you're like, what is like the best version of me? What choice does that person make in this,
100%.
in this situation?
Yeah.
And that's where I've been like the last couple of years where I'm like, okay, does this person like, does she go out to drink tonight or does she go to bed without drinking?
I get it.
Or is like, does she wake up early and write or does she wake up early and like do computer work first because that's important? Like just little, and it's all small choices.
Yes.
It's all, that's what it
Totally.
is. It's not just like, you don't just like wake up one day being like, and I'm the best version now. But
I
it's
know.
like,
I know.
I think that you had that kind of rollout, that like 2.5 year rollout of like, all right, time to like, you know,
figure it out.
Clean house a little bit on like,
And even then, like even after like getting sober and like, you know, swearing off of people's Instagrams, you know, which I've done. I mean, like everybody who is in my past, like they're frozen in time and I don't look at them because I said I wouldn't from those meetings, from that woman's share. And it like really helped me, but it still was a process of learning to trust myself. But that's how we got on this topic, because my therapist ultimately, even though the rooms were helpful, my therapist was the person who got me sober, because my therapist was like, okay, so like your whole project is trusting yourself, right? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, it seems like it's harder to if you're not sober.
Yeah.
Because then you're kind of, you know, your brain is like hijacked by whatever substance. And she said like a few other things, like I'll get the quote wrong, but it was like, I would be sober for a little while and then I'd be like, yeah, all these good things are happening. And she's like, isn't that a little hard to believe? I was like, that I would be sober. And she's like, no, that good things would happen. And I was like,
yeah,
okay, yeah. And the other thing she said that was like a real big one was I was always like a drug user for like an alleged curriculum that because I was like, I just want to
experience.
Yes.
I want to touch life. I want to have it all. Yeah.
100%. Like I want to be on like to the power of a million, touch the sun, know my truth, like whatever, peel back layers of consciousness, like all of that stuff. And so I would do drugs that, you know, many people have wonderful things to say about, including me, like mushrooms and LSD and acid.
Don't get us started. We love mushrooms.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so do I. And my therapist, after a while, because I would like do them and talk about it in therapy, she was like, okay, I'm not telling you to stop. All I'm asking you is like, you do have a memory, right? And I was like, I do. And she's like, so rather than believing that you must go back in with the drug in order to learn whatever lesson you want to learn, like you also have the capacity to remember the lesson that you learned on it yesterday and wrote about and whatever. And I was like, that's fair. And so it kind of led me, I mean, you know, that and like a few other things that she would say and the repetitiveness of this, I was like, yeah, I think that's right. And so then, you know, I've been sober for a long time at this point. Like, I think it's like 8 or 9 years, but like, but that was like a lot of it was really taking out, almost like if you think of decision-making as a controlled experiment, and then if you're putting a variable in there, then that just is the variable. And especially if it's like a mind-altering substance, then it's like, okay, yes, we have to factor that in as a variable. Whether we're going to say it's a good or bad thing or a neutral thing, like it just is relevant to the decision-making process. And I really, from the time I was a kid, for whatever reasons relating to my family of origin and whatever else, had a lot of trouble really trusting my instincts. And so I think for me, it presented this like very kind of cruel setup that I was inflicting on myself, where I would take these things that kind of hijacked my own consciousness, because then I'm like, well, how do I know if I can trust myself? So for me, it was an important piece to kind of eliminate that factor, which is really how I think of it. Like, I'm always like, I'd be the worst dare counselor, because I wouldn't be saying don't do drugs, although with fentanyl, it's a different story. But like, I wouldn't be saying that. I would be saying do them and learn until you learn and stop.
Yeah.
And that's not a dare program that anybody's buying.
I don't see that t-shirt.
School, right.
I didn't sign that.
Right.
I remember signing the document that says,
I
will not do drugs.
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
lion.
Right,
God,
exactly.
The
Totally.
little lion.
Right.
Yeah, I want that acronym on a t-shirt. It's like,
do drugs.
give it a try as long as it's in a really healthy, responsible format.
Yes.
And then when it gets too serious, then you take a step back.
Right.
What
Totally.
does DARE stand for? Drug?
All I know is dare to keep kids off drugs.
Drug abuse.
Drug and
No.
Drug
abuse is
Is it?
probably seems
Abuse,
right. Recovery,
drug abuse,
No.
Rehabilitation.
restriction, education.
Okay.
Maybe something like that.
Oh,
yeah, drug
education,
abuse,
probably.
restraining,
Okay.
education.
Okay.
something. I
Right.
don't know.
Drug awareness.
Drug
reduction
awareness.
Could be
education.
reduction. That
This is the
sounds
whole,
right.
we have a
This
whole reel of us
is-
just trying to figure out what the
What is
acronym for DARE is as we
Yeah.
talk about mushrooms.
Drugs are really exceptional.
Excellent. Yeah. Exceptional. Right. Yeah.
my
But
God.
anyway, so that's like, that was sort of part of it for me, was getting rid of them. Again, not because they're so bad, because I don't think that, but I think that they were helpful until they weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
You know?
weren't taking you forward in the direction that you wanted
Right.
to go.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're right, like it does cloud your perception. It hijacks your brain. That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
You're really capitalizing off of the highs and the lows, whether you're drinking or if you're taking an upper. You know, it really does alter your chemistry and shift your perspective.
Right.
Can I
Yeah.
ask, like,
Please.
how have you arrived at this? Okay, 19 years with my therapist, and
Yeah.
this is a choice that you're making, or your
Well,
therapist, or
it's-
collectively that you're choosing to end.
It is both of us, because it was her idea, and the joke version is like, you know, you just see her husband in the background like, just get rid of Liz already.
Yeah.
You can finally
Yeah,
retire.
exactly.
But I don't think that's what it is. Like in her specific case, I think that she basically was like, okay, it's kind of been for like a year at this point that I'll say, like, you'll bring whatever happened to our session, and then you sort of talk yourself through where you arrived. And it's I mean, I have no notes about that.
Wow.
And
That is incredible.
Yeah. And I don't mean it like, so I'm amazing.
No,
I just mean it
no,
like
for
that's
sure.
Your 19 years of
Right.
learning your process and learning how you navigate.
And then the other thing was, she was like, you know, and we're here for your growth and development. And I think, said she, that part of your growth and development would be bettered by a conscious endpoint that we gear up for, because like we get to experience that rather than, you know, having to end for whatever reason. And so why not avail ourselves for the betterment of your growth and development of that as part of what we do, you know? So that's the why.
I love that, and I want to know how are you preparing for that, and have you guys discussed like?
Yeah. So we talk about the ending like every time we meet now. Like, so earlier today we did, and she asked me, she was like, are you nervous? What are your feelings about it? And I said, I was like, okay, so interestingly, maybe I was a tennis player when I was a kid. Not like I wasn't like good, because I just wasn't.
Okay.
But it was like a core piece of my identity for a while as a child, that I was good at tennis. But I don't think I actually was. I think it was just that I was better than some other kids at tennis who I played with at the same time. And what was frustrating about that was I wasn't consistent at all. Like I would sometimes hit like really great shots, And I guess I did that enough that I had this sort of identity as a good tennis player. Like my bat mitzvah theme was tennis.
Was tennis?
Right? That's really the biggest example. Like I couldn't tell you my ranking. I wasn't playing in tournaments, but my bat mitzvah was all about tennis. Okay?
That's
and that
a
was
fun
like,
theme.
it was, yeah, it was. It was Liz.
Love
Liz's
L'chaim.
I still have a couple t-shirts, Liz's Invitational. And then, yeah. So anyway.
I'm
But
obsessed. Oh my
so,
God. Your boyfriend should have known.
Oh, yeah, I know. But anyway, so basically, like one of the main metaphors that my therapist and I have come back to for our 19 years of work together is tennis and how I felt as a tennis player, because it was such, I mean, I think like I'm not the first person to say that like there is a lot of metaphor in tennis, like you're out there on your own and, you know, there's like, how do you deal with competition? It's a big mind game. It's whatever. And I always was like, I wish that I really was able to be a more consistent tennis player. And about a year ago, I'm doing a show and I, especially like I love when I'm able to just really like when the stakes are in the ground for a show. And so I was just doing this like private show. It was like my 5th set of the night. Did not care, did not care, but I just was like ripping for some reason to a point that like I was like these 2 guys came up to me after the show. They're like, why was it funny that you told us where you parked? We were trying to figure out why it was funny. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like just like
when
one
you're
of
in
those.
I know, yeah, when you're just in
and
the
so
zone.
I guess I must have said like around where I live and the fact that I wanted to play tennis more. I don't know why I would be talking about that. But the reason that I think I said that was this guy comes up to me after. He's like, hey, I live like right near you and I'm a tennis teacher. Here's my card. And so then I started taking tennis from this guy who's the biggest grump I've ever met in my life. And he's the most amazing tennis teacher I have ever met in my whole life. And so
What's so incredible about him?
the way he's like, you know, when some teacher is just able to explain something that you're like, I finally get it.
Yeah.
Like after
Just they know how to lock
I'm like,
everything in.
How
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
In what world? Right? And I would say this directly to him because he's just such a grump. He's the biggest grouch I've ever met, but like something about him, he's amazing. Okay. At teaching me tennis, this thing that he doesn't even get, like the level of psychology that this has plagued me my entire life and whatever. I'm just playing better tennis than I've ever played at 46 with bad knees than I did as an 11-year-old, right? And so anyway, so I was saying this to my therapist. She knows, you know, we've obviously come back to the tennis. I mean, it's like literally this thing. I'm like, oh my God, I met this guy, you know, whatever. But she's like, are you nervous for the last session? And I was like, here's what I will say is now, I'm not saying I'm like an amazing tennis player, but I know that right now, the way that I'm hitting balls, I can know with like 85-degree certainty that I'm going to get it over the net, which I never could know as a kid. And that's everything to me. It's so amazing. I even have a good backhand. Like I never had this. And yet, even though I know that, when I see that it's the last ball in a lesson, when we're picking up balls 3 times throughout the hour, if I see it's the last ball, I'm almost 85% sure I'm going to not get it over the net because I'm so nervous that it's the last ball. And it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Then we're going to pick them up and then we're going to play again. And we're not even playing for any points. And even in that situation, I get nervous. So I said to her, I was like, I'm nervous for the last session in the same way that I get nervous and I tighten up for that last ball in any series, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm glad I said it, you know, because then it's like, okay, so now I can think about it and hopefully overcome it or whatever, at least like deal with it or something. But I mean, all I do is try and just collect the lessons and make sure that I've internalized them. But I don't know. I mean, how, you know, we never know.
You never know.
Right.
So what do you think it's going to be like?
Well, I feel like the more I live life, the more I get that like so much is just like scheduling.
Yeah.
And if I know what I'm doing on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because I come in from New Jersey to the city to do in-person therapy. because I mean, obviously we've been through Zoom therapy because we were together for the pandemic, but I do love in person because I did cry once in person and I'm not really a crier. And I was like, well, I think it's a better deal because I cried. But I also just think it's better. But anyway, so I already feel as I'm coming in on Tuesdays, I'm like, well, what if I were coming in to, have a full day of podcast recordings or, filming something or whatever. And that's okay too, So I think it's like I've felt a little bit ready for it to be over, even though I love it the most.
Yeah.
So it's kind of both. I guess.
It's bittersweet.
Yeah,
It's
good. I think it is a good thing. How do you feel about yours?
I cried about it today.
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
I did because I was like just dealing with just some heaviness this week, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna not have this in a month,
Yeah.
But also similarly, like,
yeah,
I wonder if the next step of my growth is like take the training wheels. Not that therapy is training wheels, but like you have learned so much, and like let's see. My plan is to like not continue therapy over the summer, and then if I feel like I'm good, then good. But then maybe establish care with someone new in the fall.
Yeah,
If I'm
totally.
like, because it has been so helpful for me, and I do have stuff that just still kind of comes up for me that I'm like, it would be helpful to establish care with someone so that I'm not like, oh, a fourth cancer diagnosis and I need to go find a therapist now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, seriously.
That's my like fear at this point. But then it's also like, let's see, you don't know. You just don't know.
No, totally. That makes sense.
I'm so fascinated by the idea, though, of like wrapping up therapy only because I feel like the circle of friends that I spend most of my time with are kind of all believers, and this could change. It probably will change. And maybe you felt this way, that like, oh, therapy is a lifetime's worth of work.
Totally.
That like, therapy never ends. You always go to therapy because you're always changing and you're always confronting new challenges that you need help and perspective with.
Sure.
So I think there's a part of me that I wonder though, that like in my brain, I've been like, oh, I'll be in therapy forever, so I'll deal with it next week.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, oh, therapy is a limited thing that I can afford right now that I can do.
Right.
And I should really be doing the work.
Yeah.
Because showing up to therapy isn't always doing the work.
Totally.
It's what you do between sessions. That's the work.
I think that's right. I mean, I was fine with being in it forever. There was no part of me that was like, I need to end. It was more just like she suggested it. And then I was like, okay, well, why? And then the business of like, availing ourselves of this conscious endpoint came into the conversation, which intrigued me because I was like, okay, I want to learn more and like whatever. So, but I mean, I worry about like, oh my God, what if God forbid, God forbid, God forbid? I'm always like that. And then what's going to happen? And I mean, she's like, well, I'm still here. Like I'm not. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. That's. Man.
And there's a lot of value in figuring out how to like dig yourself out of something. Like I had a circumstance a few weeks ago where I got some unfortunate news about an ex of mine. It's okay. But I was like, how do I deal with this? And all week long, I was like, I don't know how I want to confront this circumstance.
Sure.
And how do I confront this news with this person?
Yeah.
I was like panicking and didn't know what to do. And I was like, I have therapy on Friday. I'll see my therapist on Friday and we'll talk about it. And then it was the one time in all of my sessions with my therapist that my therapist just didn't show up. He thought that we had taken the week off and we didn't. And I was like, fuck.
Wow.
I have to deal with this and I got to get it off my chest before the weekend. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? I can do this. Yeah. Like, I don't need to run to mom or dad or like run to my therapist to get the guideline on how to handle this circumstance.
Totally.
And then I was like, oh, I can actually do this. And then I did. And I think I did a really beautiful job of it. And that was like something I brought to therapy the following week. I was like, hey, I actually like, I managed this by myself in a way that I thought I desperately needed you and I needed a session to deal with it.
How productive.
But I was like, oh, great. It was like a big moment of growth for me. And I was like, okay. So I think you're on the precipice of learning a lot about yourself.
I hope so.
Which I think is incredible.
Yeah. I do hope so.
Yeah.
And I hope so for you too.
Yeah. I think it's like just an inevitability of like, of just going, all right. Just like, it's scary, but it's like, but like, okay.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Yeah.
It's the 85. I love that analogy of like likening your 11-year-old self to who you were when you first started in therapy, where it's like you didn't know how to hit them.
I didn't.
But now you do.
I do.
And you know 85% of the time,
Yeah.
and that's pretty damn good.
It is.
Because nobody knows 100.
100% you don't.
Not,
right.
Nobody ever has that. But that
Yes.
last 15 is actually essential. We need a little bit of mystery. We need a little bit of
And then sometimes, like, that's where it gets really beautiful, is that, like, now I'm just like, okay, what I know how to do is hit the ball. And then if I'm feeling really good, I can, like, really hit the ball.
Yeah.
And it's like jokes. Like, it's like sometimes when you're in it, you're like, oh, I can hit this, like, really hard. And I can take, like, a pause that just feels right and sort of dance it out a little bit. But, like, what that is built upon is, like, the real kind of components of what the joke is.
1,000%. And all the reps that it took before that, and
totally.
all the learning you did before that.
Yeah.
Well, that was lovely.
It was
incredible.
That was phenomenal.
We have to wrap up already.
We have to wrap it up.
Okay.
It just goes by so
Yeah, I know. And you guys, I mean, really, just phenomenal. Very, very happy to be in your energy.
Liz.
Oh, no, really. It's
So
like
happy to have you.
amazing.
You're
It was
the best.
amazing.
Drew was like, tell me about Liz. I was like, Liz.
Yeah, I was like, she seems really
I
cool.
feel
I
the
want to
same
be on the
about
pod.
you.
I was like, she just is like, just every time I see her, I'm just like,
That's
it's just
how
a
I
thrill.
feel.
I love
it's
it.
truly, truly the most mutual, Alex. And,
I love
and
that.
Drew, you
So
too.
nice to meet you.
Yeah,
I know.
the
It's
same,
such a joy.
the same.
It's a true joy.
Yeah.
You have to teach me how to play tennis. I've never
Oh,
held a
yeah.
tennis racket.
Well, I mean, really, you just got to meet my guy. I have a joke brewing about him, so I don't say his real name.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say his fake name because
Right.
that seems weird. So that's why I've
true.
just been calling him
He'll be
tennis
the
teacher.
Mr.
tennis
Tennis.
guy.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the only reason
Wilson.
why. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for listening. Like, follow, subscribe. Give Liz a follow
Sure.
on social
Yes.
media.
Yes.
Catch her on April 20th on Netflix.
Yeah, totally.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So exciting. I can't wait.
Bye.
Thanks so
Bye,
much,
everybody.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you.